Well, Larson dominated again while the rest of the contenders imploded around him. So was it a good race with that dominance? Mistakes were made in my kitchen this weekend. Where did I go wrong? We'll get into that and more next on Racin-n-Braisin. Hi folks, welcome back to Racin-n-Braisin. I am CJ. It is Monday and we've got some things to talk about after Kansas. We're going to talk about Larson's dominance, talk about how the rest of the field just absolutely imploded around him. We're going to discuss whether that made for a good race. Finally, we'll round out with picks, and then we'll talk about what I did wrong this weekend in the kitchen. You'll be surprised to hear what that was. Let's start things off, of course, with Kyle Larson's dominance. Boy, when he and Cliff Daniels are clicking, there is no doubt that I think we are seeing this generation's premier crew chief driver combination, the next Jimmie Johnson-Chad Knaus combination. It might be difficult for another combination such as this to possibly repeat what Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus did with their 5 in a row. I don't know that we'll ever see that again with this playoff combination. But if there was ever a crew chief driver combo that could do it, I think this one right here with Larson and Daniels could absolutely do that. They are hitting on all strides, and they will probably, in all likelihood, dominate several other races this year. Obviously, Cliff Daniels knew exactly what to do with Larson and the setup, and of course he was just driving the crap out of that yesterday. But the rest of the field yesterday had a slew of issues. It started early with William Byron, who looked promising early. He had gone forward early in the day and unfortunately had a tire blow, which cost me big time, and we'll talk about that later. He went a lap down and just never recovered. So there was one contender out the door early. Another one out the picture early was Denny Hamlin. Started having transmission issues, and his pit road woes became a major problem, and for the second week in a row, another DNF for Hamlin. So, out the picture. Reddick was in the wall. Bubba had damage. Riley Herbst, I don't think I ever heard his name once yesterday. The best 23-11 finisher was Corey Heim in just his 4th ever Cup start and his first Cup start of the season. That was a group of contenders that we all thought might have, at least 2 of them might have had a potential to contend yesterday. Brad Keselowski, all of a sudden, moving forward throughout the day and finding his way up towards the front, running second before blowing a tire. Boy, if that team didn't have bad luck, they would have no luck whatsoever. And they are generating a ton of bad luck. One thing I want to say about that is that bad luck is starting on Saturdays for them. They are not qualifying well, and they are not practicing very well, at least on the score sheets. They feel like they have the speed and they have the confidence in their cars that they can have good finishes, but they're just not getting them. And that's definitely starting on Saturday with poor qualifying, poor pit selections, all of that culminates, and they are starting Sundays on the back foot. It's unfortunate to see that they are finally getting towards the front and just more bad luck befalls them. Then finally, they were chasing down Chase Elliott, who was finally having a great day on a 1.5 miles, was marching forward all throughout the day. We saw him leading the race thanks to a good pit stop, but then followed up by a bad pit stop, and that cost him the race. Very unfortunate, but I definitely felt like it was promising to see the 9 team performing well yesterday and being one of the contenders. Unfortunately, a bad pit stop cost them. There really was no competing with Kyle Larson yesterday. So that leads us to the question of, was that a good race? Well, first thing before I say yes or no, the crowd size yesterday was disappointing. Very disappointing, especially compared to what we saw last week in Texas, where it was a massive crowd and the best crowd they had had in years. Yesterday, very noticeable right from the start of the race that the crowd size was not that large. Even during the pre-race, it looked like the crowd on the infield and milling around on the pit road was not that big. And it was definitely noticeable once they were all up in the stands. The infield looked really good, but the crowd in the stands did not. Maybe a problem with the Kansas City area not promoting well enough. I saw advertisements on my Facebook for last chance to get tickets for Kansas. Obviously, they were struggling to sell tickets. But the racing, I thought itself, was pretty good. Did it meet the expectations that Kansas was generating yesterday? No, I think it fell well short of what everybody was expecting. But it wasn't terrible racing. When Fox eventually did show racing throughout the field, throughout the runs, you could tell that there was passing going on. Tires were definitely playing a factor yesterday. There was dramatic tire wear. Towards the ends of runs, we were seeing people cord tires and just absolutely run them down to the very last little bit. Even Kyle Larson on the last couple of laps was tearing apart those rear tires on his car and almost lost that race. If it had been another lap or two longer, I don't think he would have been able to make it. But it proved that tires were a factor yesterday, and that was good to see. So ultimately, I would say yes, it was a good race. Despite Larson absolutely putting a stinker on the rest of the field, I felt like it was a good, interesting race. There was a lot going on, plenty of storylines to follow throughout the week, or throughout the race, and definitely some major disappointments yesterday in the troubles that befell so many drivers. So let's round off the NASCAR talk with how the regular season battle has shaped up for Mom and myself. With yesterday's results, Mom had Larson, so that was 1 point added to her, now only at 141. And with Byron and his unfortunate series of events early, led to a 24th place finish and added a ton to my points. So I'm now at 186 and now 45 points away, which means I'm a full race away and I need to be swinging for fences. We're now just about halfway through the regular season. So we're going to be starting to talk a lot more about playoffs and points, people capturing wins and taking those playoff positions away. So let's round today's episode off with me admitting to a mistake in my kitchen yesterday. No, it was not the sauce. The sauce actually turned out really good yesterday. And if you didn't check out that video, I'll try to add a card here below. Check out how to make that sauce. It was delicious. I thought it was really good. I felt like it worked out really well for me. However, my pork did not. I realized it about 3/4 of the way through my overall cook process yesterday that I had made the wrong decision in how I decided to cook that pork yesterday. Now, it was country style ribs, so it is definitely a tougher kind of meat. And you know what? I just didn't even consider that yesterday. And that's where I went wrong, recognizing that was the mistake. What I should have done yesterday, instead of putting that in the oven for 4 hours like I ended up cooking, I should have used the Instapot. I completely forgot I had the Instapot at my disposal. I should have used that, should have pressure cooked those tough pieces of meat, and that would have absolutely done wonders to get a nice, soft, fork tender texture on that meat. That would have been the winner. However, that is not what I did. I had them in the oven yesterday, and they just never really cooked the way I wanted them to. They came out still tough. I was able to cut through the meat with a butter knife and able to chew it comfortably. It wasn't so tough that it was an issue, but the moisture was lost in the oven yesterday, and it was disappointing. So that was my mistake in the kitchen this weekend. It happens. I've been in and around the restaurant industry, hospitality, for over 20 years now, and I have made my share of mistakes, and it just goes to show that I will continue to make mistakes. The great thing about that is that I learn and grow each time I do, and that's what's gotten me to where I am now as a chef. And I hope you guys take that as your little lesson that we all make mistakes and we all have opportunities to learn and grow from them. It's with those mistakes that make us much, much better. So having said that, it was not a total loss in the kitchen. I do want to touch on one more little thing, which is kind of a tease for next week. Saturday, I was playing with my mixer and found a success on some bread that I've been working on, and that's going to be highlighted next week for my All-Star menu. So that leaves us to the end of today's episode. It's gotten a little bit long. I've had a lot to say about Kansas, but we'll put that in the rearview mirror and we'll look ahead to next week on Thursday's episode as I preview the All-Star weekend, talk about my All-Star menu. Until then, I hope you guys had a really good Mother's Day weekend. To all the mothers out there, I hope you all had an opportunity to enjoy it in some form or another with family and friends. And I hope leave a like, subscribe, be sure to hit the bell, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you tried that barbecue sauce yesterday. Until Thursday night, guys, I will catch you next time. Thanks a lot.